Do you want the long answer or the short answer? Because this question alone is needing more than 10 minutes to talk about. I'll be so genuine with that. Is fast fashion bad? Now, I'm just going to tell you my intentions with this video before I start this. The first thing I'm not trying to do is I'm not trying to completely discriminate those and separate from those that do choose to buy fast fashion, because I think the first thing to do to have a better approach with things is to understand where people are coming from. If you understand the intention behind the person that buys the fast fashion, you can understand where the intervention or the intervening of secondhand and implementing a more sustainable approach. I made it clear before, people that are trying to be advertising secondhand and sustainability to people who buy fast fashion, it's all about the delivery. The same way I need to understand why somebody wants to go and shop in Zara, they have to understand why I'm telling them, or not asking them, why I'm trying to sell sustainable fashion. So the reason why fast fashion is bad, so just like I guess a very small micro lesson into why fast fashion is bad. So the reasons why it's a bad economy and a bad system is that it is the second biggest causer of climate change and the greenhouse gases. So it is the second biggest polluting industry in the world. Fashion, textiles, the reproduction of that. It relies so heavily on the natural resources that we have, like water, soil, the land, the ecosystem, the air. It relies heavily on this production, and it basically exploits all aspects of them. The socio-economic side of things are that most people that are making the clothes within fast fashion work under very, very strict rules and regimes, have very high quotas to make products, and I don't think have a very good way of living. Fast fashion is the unsustainable approach of maintaining like a super drive-by, take and go, get rid of, disposable industry. A lot of it now, a lot of what you will see now is a lot of fast fashion brands doing what's called greenwashing. So where they're openly saying all these things that they do, but realistically it's just used as a way to distract you while they sort of continue to not do that. So one of the Jenners, which I forgot about now, I forgot whose name it was, one of the Jenners did a collaboration with like Pretty Little Thing, and they use these things where they go, all of the products were made from recycled plastics and all this, right? But if you Google it and you look into it, 0.5% of new clothing made comes from recycled plastic. And why is that? Because the process is so difficult and so not simplified to sort of break down. So when I want to look at, so how bad is the fast fashion industry? What I think the biggest problem with the fast fashion industry is the narrative that people have around relevancy, around some unspoken subliminal need to be like on trend with what most trends that have came out and most things that come out now are just a recycled inspiration of something that already exists. But the issue with a lot of it is, and I think I did address this point before. Now, when people think of fast fashion, the reason why people go to fast fashion are probably the two simplest points. For the most part, it's very cheap and affordable. Styles look nice. I'm doing this in inverted commas. Styles look nice, and they are, 10 a penny, 1 of 1,000. You take that and you buy it, and it's cool. Look at the people who use Bershka, Pull&Bear, Zara. That same approach. It's like this updated, stylistic look that's just completely fast fashion. Now, Spencer, you've completely tangent from a point. Are you going to come back to it? Yes. So, how bad fast fashion is is that currently we're in a point where the internet needs to understand how to have the conversation with those that buy fast fashion in a way that doesn't say, hey, you shop at Zara, you suck. It's like, hey, you shop at Zara, not did you know. Did you know is also patronizing. I made a video about the way to market sustainability through a secondhand brand. And the reason why it's so complicated is because the underlying thing is you're trying to convert somebody who is the complete opposite, or they're opposite for a variety of reasons. Some people will buy fast fashion because they just don't like what secondhand represents. Why would I buy secondhand clothes? I've got loads of them in my wardrobe. Like, I wouldn't sell them, so why would I buy them? They're all old and dirty. And that is one area with why people struggle with fast fashion, is because what fast fashion does is the cheap price is actually to its detriment, right? So you take this Adidas beanie that's gone, I don't even want to think how many heads it's maybe been on. It has been washed and it's been dried, it will be. But this started its journey in a shop for, let's say, $19.99 in 2007, right? Started its journey there. Was bought by a bloke, he wore it for a bit, went to the football in it, got rid of it 3 years later. Why did he get rid of it? Maybe his wife got a couple hats for him, maybe it was time for him to get a change of one. Has this lost any quality? No, it's still there, it's still good. What happened to it? Went into wherever it went, assuming that it didn't just have other owners, and then I bought it with the intention to sell it and market it. But this beanie is still a fully functioning wearable hat. The material is still super functional, and because it's made by brands that have a good name for themselves, the value of the brand remains pretty high. Whereas when you look at something like Shein, if you buy a top for £7, the stock market of the resale on that economy is that it's, because of how cheap it is designed purely to buy and fling it out. It is not made, it's not sort of clothing where it's sold on the idea of buy this to repurpose it later. It's like, use this top, wear it for a couple of weeks, as soon as it starts fraying, get rid of it because it costs you £5 in a sale anyway. So the underlying narrative that people have about that is very hard to orchestrate. It's a bit like, this is a very weird analogy, it's a bit like telling a smoker that smoking kills, and because they can't see what it will do to them directly, they're less affected by it because it will just happen later on in life. Whereas the same thing, I know that's a really horrible analogy, but just go with me a sec. Now, when you look at the second-hand community, when you try and advertise to people who are into fast fashion why they should buy second, they are having to invest in an image that doesn't involve them. So it requires selfless reflection and awareness to what is happening to where you're living. If you care about like the place you live, the place that your parents live, the place that your partner lives and where you want to live in the future, it's all relative to the way that you treat the world by the ways that you treat like anything, you know. I know that's a little bit too like, whoa, bohemian and like kind of like vague, but the underlying things for why fast fashion is bad is because it's in an incompatible comparison of a market where a second-hand seller can't go, these tops are all £5. Like, they can't do that all the time. And if they could, it's probably not second-hand. It's probably one of many. And again, physical products we're dealing with, guys. Physical products with different individual problems, different measurements, iconic, one-of-one pieces. That's incompatible. The second biggest reason why fast fashion is bad is because the way that we are going, the way that it's needed to perpetuate a message about the damage of fast fashion to people who buy it is just the same message of telling somebody that smoking kills to someone who smokes. They know it does anyway. They've not thought about that too much because that's not why they're doing it. They're not doing it to kill themselves. They're not doing it like to buy fast fashion to like just end the world and problems. You know, like if they are, then this analogy isn't based for you. But like, find a way to communicate with it as like an exercise. Just like if you've got a friend who buys fast fashion, and just say to them, like, aside from the cost to this, why do you buy into fast fashion? Why do you want to support this industry? And I think that if you ask the question, maybe people will just give you generic answers and stuff. But I feel like in order to just get the wheel moving with it, you have to start asking the questions to get different answers. And I know people who talk about politics, it's almost like one of them topics where, like, if someone from the left and someone from the right are speaking to each other, everybody else in the room's like, I'm leaving because I couldn't care less. We don't want to get to the point where you don't want to speak about secondhand because there's like this tug of war with people who buy fast fashion against people who buy secondhand. But what you do want to get to is a point where you can understand why somebody buys fast fashion and help them to understand why they should try secondhand. Again, if everybody had one mate that decided to make one purchase that wasn't fast fashion a year, I have no idea what the numbers are, but the impact that change would have, and that would be one friend that everybody has buying one thing secondhand over that fast fashion purchase. That's a massive chain reaction. Yeah. And I know that there's another argument. Some people might go, yeah, well, if the numbers of fast fashion go down, then the price will have to increase because the demand won't be reaching the supply. There'll be too much supply and not enough demand. Yeah. And what's wrong with the price going up on fast fashion? Maybe the people that actually create the products might get paid more for it. Probably not. But again, I've lived within the ecosystem of this for ages, so I will jest and I will joke and things like that about it. But the underlying thing is that for me, with this channel as well, I'm not here to try and tell you what I think you should do. I'm here to just give you some insight into what I've learned and what I would advise going back and what I think about things as I see it. You take that however you want to. If it finds you well and it empowers you for something, then sick. Go and use that info and do something with it. But if it doesn't, it's all gravy. No problems, nothing gained, nothing ventured. Fast fashion, it's a ropey one, and it's definitely not a topic that I can talk about in a few minutes. So try that exercise. Ask a friend something about fast fashion, and also see if you can convince one friend to buy a second-hand item once a year. Small little turns go in the right way anyway.